Section 13 of English Synonyms and Antonyms. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Mario Pineda. English Synonyms and Antonyms by James Champlin Fernald. Becoming to Bluff. Becoming. Synonyms: befitting, beseeming, comely, congruous, decent, decorous, fit, fitting, graceful, meet, neat, proper, seemly, suitable, worthy. That is becoming in dress which suits the complexion, figure, and other qualities of the wearer, so as to produce on the whole a pleasing effect. That is decent which does not offend modesty or propriety. That is suitable which is adapted to the age, station, situation, and other circumstances of the wearer. Coarse, heavy boots are suitable for farm work. A juvenile style of dress is not suitable for an old lady. In conduct much the same rules apply. The dignity and gravity of a patriarch would not be becoming to a child. At a funeral lively, cheery sociability would not be decorous, while noisy hilarity would not be decent. Sumptuous display would not be suitable for a poor person. Fit is a compendious term for whatever fits the person, time, place, occasion, etc., as a fit person, a fit abode, a fit place. Fitting or befitting is somewhat more elegant, implying a nicer adaptation. Meet, a somewhat archaic word, expresses a moral fitness, as meet for heaven. Compare beautiful. Antonyms: awkward, ill-becoming, ill-fitting, improper, indecent, indecorous, unbecoming, unfit, unseemly, unsuitable. Prepositions: the dress was becoming to the wearer. Such conduct was becoming in him. Beginning. Synonyms: arising, commencement, fount, fountain, inauguration, inception, initiation, opening, origin, outset, rise, source, spring, start. The Latin commencement is more formal than the Saxon beginning, as the verb commence is more formal than begin. Commencement is for the most part restricted to some form of action, while beginning has no restriction, but may be applied to action, state, material, extent, enumeration, or to whatever else may be conceived of as having a first part, point, degree, etc. The letter A is at the beginning, not the commencement of every alphabet. If we were to speak of the commencement of the Pacific Railroad, we should be understood to refer to the enterprise and its initiatory act. If we were to refer to the roadway, we should say, here is the beginning of the Pacific Railroad. In the great majority of cases, begin and beginning are preferable to commence and commencement as the simple, idiomatic English words, always accurate and expressive. In the beginning was the word, John 1:1. An origin is the point from which something starts or sets out, often involving and always suggesting causal connection, as the origin of evil, the origin of a nation, a government, or a family. A source is that which furnishes a first and continuous supply, that which flows forth freely or may be readily recurred to, as the source of a river, a source of knowledge, a source of inspiration. Fertile land is a source, not an origin of wealth. A rise is thought of as in an action. We say that a lake is the source of a certain river, or that the river takes its rise from the lake. Motley wrote of the rise of the Dutch Republic. Fount, fountain, and spring, in their figurative senses, keep close to their literal meaning. Compare cause. Antonyms. See synonyms for end. Behavior. Synonyms: action, bearing, breeding, carriage, conduct, demeanor, deportment, life, manner, manners. Behavior is our action in the presence of others. Conduct includes also that which is known only to ourselves and our Maker. Carriage expresses simply the manner of holding the body, especially in sitting or walking, as when it is said of a lady, she has a fine carriage. Bearing refers to the bodily expression of feeling or disposition, as a haughty bearing. A noble bearing, demeanor, is the bodily expression, as a haughty bearing, a noble bearing. Demeanor is the bodily expression not only of feelings, but of moral states, as a debut demeanor. Breeding, unless with some adverse limitation, denotes that manner and conduct which result from good birth and training. Deportment is behavior as related to a set of rules, as the pupil's deportment was faultless. A person's manner might be that of a moment or toward a single person. His manners are his habitual style of behavior toward or before others, especially in matters of etiquette and politeness, as good manners are always pleasing. Prepositions: The behavior of the pastor to or towards his people, on or upon the streets, before the multitude, or in the church, with the godly or with the worldly, was alike faultless. Bend. Synonyms: bias, bow, crook, curve, deflect, deviate, diverge, incline, influence, mold, persuade, stoop, submit, turn, twine, twist, warp, gild. In some cases a thing is spoken of as bent where the parts make an angle, but oftener to bend is understood to be to draw to or through a curve, as to bend a bow. To submit or yield is to bend the mind humbly to another's wishes. To incline or influence is to bend another's wishes toward our own. To persuade is to draw them quite over. To warp is to bend silently through the whole fiber, as a board in the sun. To crook is to bend irregularly, as a crooked stick. Deflect, deviate, and diverge are said of any turning away. Deviate commonly of a slight and gradual movement, diverge of a more sharp and decided one. To bias is to cut across the texture or incline to one side. In figurative use always with an unfavorable import. Mold is a stronger word than bend. We may bend by a superior force that which still resists the constraint. As a bent bow, we mold something plastic entirely to some desired form. Benevolence. Synonyms: almsgiving, beneficence, benignity, bounty, charity, generosity, goodwill, humanity, kind-heartedness, kindliness, kindness, liberality, munificence, philanthropy, sympathy, unselfishness. According to the etymology and original use, beneficence is the doing well, benevolence the wishing or willing well to others. But benevolence has come to include beneficence and to displace it. We should not now speak of benevolence which did not help, unless where there was no power to help. Even then we should rather say goodwill or sympathy. Charity, which originally meant the purest love for God and man, as in 1 Corinthians 13, is now almost universally applied to some form of almsgiving, and is much more limited in meaning than benevolence. Benignity suggests some occult power of blessing, such as was formerly ascribed to the stars. We may say a good man has an air of benignity. Kindness and tenderness are personal. Benevolence and charity are general. Kindness extends to all sentient beings, whether men or animals, in prosperity or in distress. Tenderness especially goes out toward the young, feeble, and needy, or even to the dead. Humanity is so much kindness and tenderness toward man or beast as it would be inhuman not to have. We say of some act of care or kindness. Common humanity requires it. Generosity is self-forgetful kindness in disposition or action. It includes much besides giving, as the generosity of forgiveness. Bounty applies to ample giving, which on a larger scale is expressed by munificence. Liberality indicates broad, genial, kindly views, whether manifested in gifts or otherwise. We speak of the bounty of a generous host, the liberality or munificence of the founder of a college, or of the liberality of a theologian toward the holders of conflicting beliefs. Philanthropy applies to wide schemes for human welfare, often but not always involving large expenditures in charity or benevolence. Compare mercy. Antonyms: barbarity, brutality, churlishness, greediness, harshness, illiberality, ill will, inhumanity, malevolence, malignity, niggardliness, selfishness, self-seeking, stinginess, unkindness. Prepositions: benevolence of or on the part of or from the wealthy, to or toward the poor. Bind. Synonyms: compel, engage, fasten, fetter, fix, oblige, restrain, restrict, secure, shackle, tie. Binding is primarily by something flexible, as a cord or bandage drawn closely around an object or group of objects, as when we bind up a wounded limb. We bind a sheaf of wheat with a cord. We tie the cord in a knot. We fasten by any means that will make things hold together, as a board by nails or a door by a lock. The verbs tie and fasten are scarcely used in the figurative sense, though using the noun we speak of the ties of affection. Bind has an extensive figurative use. One is bound by conscience or honor. He is obliged by some imperious necessity, engaged by his own promise, compelled by physical force or its moral equivalent. Antonyms: free, loose, set free, unbind, unfasten, unloose, untie. Prepositions: bind to a pillar, onto an altar, to a service. Bind one with chains or in chains. One is bound by a contract. A splint is bound upon a limb. The arms may be bound to the sides or behind the back. Bind a wreath about, around, or round the head. Twigs are bound in or into faggots. For military purposes, they are bound at both ends and in the middle. One is bound by a contract or bound under a penalty to fulfill a contract. Bitter. Synonyms: acerb, acidus, acid, acidulated, acidulous, acrid, acrimonious, biting, caustic, cutting, harsh, irate, pungent, savage, sharp, sour, stinging, tart, bingarish, virulent. Acid, sour, and bitter agree in being contrasted with sweet, but the two former are sharply distinguished from the latter. Acid or sour is the taste of vinegar or lemon juice, bitter that of quassia, quinine, or strychnine. Acrid is nearly allied to bitter. Pungent suggests the effect of pepper or snuff on the organs of taste or smell, as a pungent odor. Caustic indicates the corroding effect of some strong chemical, as nitrate or sulfur. In a figurative sense, as applied to language or character, these words are very closely allied. We say a sour face, sharp words, bitter complaints, caustic wit, cutting irony, biting sarcasm, a stinging taunt, harsh judgment, a tart reply. Harsh carries the idea of intentional and severe unkindness, bitter of a severity that arises from real or supposed ill treatment. The bitter speech springs from the sore heart. Tart and sharp utterances may not proceed from an intention to wound, but merely from a wit recklessly keen. Cutting, stinging, and biting speech indicates more or less of hostile intent, the latter being the more deeply malicious. The caustic utterance is meant to burn, perhaps wholesomely, as in the satire of Juvenal or Cervantes. Compare morose. Antonyms: dulcet, honeyed, luscious, nectared, saccharine, sweet. Bleach, verb. Synonyms: blanch, make white, whiten, whitewash. To whiten is to make white in general, but commonly it means to overspread with white coloring matter. Bleach and blanch both signify to whiten by depriving of color, the former permanently, as linen; the latter either permanently, as to blanch celery, or temporarily, as to blanch the cheek with fear. To whitewash is to whiten superficially, especially by false approval. Antonyms: blacken, color, darken, dye, soil, stain. Blemish. Synonyms: blot, blur, brand, crack, dove, defacement, defect, deformity, dent, disfigurement, disgrace, dishonor, fault, flaw, imperfection, injury, reproach, smirch, soil, speck, spot, stain, stigma, taint, tarnish. Whatever mars the beauty or completeness of an object is a blemish, whether original, as squinting eyes, or the result of accident or disease, etc., as the pits of smallpox. A blemish is superficial. A flaw or taint is in structure or substance. In the moral sense, we speak of a blot or stain upon reputation, a flaw or taint in character. A defect is the want or lack of something. Fault, primarily a failing, is something that fails of an apparent intent or disappoints a natural expectation. Thus, a sudden dislocation or displacement of geological strata is called a fault. Figuratively, a blemish comes from one's own ill-doing. A brand or stigma is inflicted by others, as the brand of infamy. Blow. Synonyms: box, buffet, calamity, concussion, cuff, cut, disaster, knock, lash, misfortune, rap, shock, stripe, stroke, thump. A blow is a sudden impact, as of a fist or a club. A stroke is a sweeping movement, as the stroke of a sword, of an oar, of the arm in swimming. A shock is the sudden encounter with some heavy body, as colliding railway trains meet with a shock, the shock of battle. A slap is given with the open hand, a lash with a whip, tongue, or the like. We speak also of the cut of a whip. A buffet or cuff is given only with the hand, a blow either with hand or weapon. A cuff is a somewhat sidelong blow, generally with the open hand, as a cuff or box on the ear. A stripe is the effect or mark of a stroke. In the metaphorical sense, blow is used for sudden, stunning, staggering calamity or sorrow, the stroke for sweeping disaster, and also for sweeping achievement and success. We say a stroke of paralysis, or a stroke of genius. We speak of the buffets of adverse fortune. Shock is used of that which is at once sudden, violent, and prostrating. We speak of a shock of electricity, the shock of an amputation, a shock of surprise. Compare beat. Bluff. Abrupt, blunt, blustering, bold, brusque, coarse, discourteous, frank, impolite, inconsiderate, open, plain-spoken, rough, rude, uncivil, unmannerly. Bluff is a word of good meaning, as are frank and open. The bluff man talks and laughs loudly and freely, says and does whatever he pleases with fearless good nature, and with no thought of annoying or giving pain to others. The blunt man says things which he is perfectly aware are disagreeable, either from a defiant indifference to others' feelings or from the pleasure of tormenting. Antonyms: bland, courteous, genial, polished, polite, refined, reserved, urbane. End of section 13.